Anyway, this next song is about, I'm here to challenge you, by the way. I'm here to make you wonder what's going on. I don't care if you hate me. You can hate me, it's okay. But listen to this. This song is about the world we live in and how it's probably different than we imagine it to be. I want to tell you a story about Admiral Byrd, Richard B. Byrd, the most famous Navy pilot of his time, the most well-respected man in the military of his time. In 1947, he had a mission that took him over the North Pole. He was supposed to be the first man to ever fly over the North Pole. And this was making him even more famous than he already was. So, this is not an ordinary man. Everybody knows who this man is, especially in the governments and the military. As he's flying along in his airplane, and this is undiscovered territory, so he's keeping a log of everything that's happening. He's flying along in his airplane. Remember, this is 1947, the most well-respected man in the military. Flying along, and he sees a mountain range off in the distance, where there should just be snow and ice. There's a mountain range. He gets a little closer. The snow starts to turn into grass. Fields of grass and mountains. At the North Pole, he's writing all this down. He takes a dip down to get a closer look at the grass, and he sees what he thinks is an elephant. He sees what he thinks is an elephant. He gets even closer and he realizes, no, this is a woolly mammoth. And he's writing all this down. I know it's unbelievable. It gets worse. Trust me. This is going to blow your mind. He's flying along, and after a while, all the gauges start to go haywire. Totally. His plane stops working, although it's still flying. Like he's not controlling it. And these two flying machines come out of nowhere. And they have some type of swastika on the side of them. Not the swastika that you and I know about, but it's a variation. And he hears this voice come through his radio equipment that says, don't worry, something to the effect of, don't worry, you're in good hands. And so these machines are basically escorting him. He's not even flying his own plane at this point. And he's documenting all this in his flight log. I know how this sounds. He's going along, and his plane stops in midair. And off in the distance, he sees what looks like to be a city. A futuristic city, something out of, he said it looked like the architecture of Frank Lloyd Wright. Or something more like out of Buck Rogers. Unbelievable stuff. His plane is then lowered down as if it was on an elevator. And it stops. And there's these tall, blonde-haired people that are starting to approach him. And he writes down, they don't have any weapons. So he must be safe. You know, he thinks like, at least they're not hostile. And they take him, and they escort him onto this metal platform that has no wheels on it. And it moves over to the buildings into the city. I know how this sounds. Unbelievable, right? Like a cartoon or something. Well, maybe it's not true. But just listen. They take him in there, and they give him the most delicious beverage he has ever had in his life. It is astounding. It tastes like nothing he's ever had before. And he's just lounging around in this futuristic town. And these two beautiful women approach him. And they said, it's time for your appointment with the master. You know, he doesn't know what to think. He's just going along for the ride at this point. What can he do? They take him into what looks like to be an elevator. And he thinks they go down. When they come out of this elevator, all the walls are illuminating this rose-colored light There's no light bulbs that he can tell, that he can see. It's futuristic stuff. He goes into this room and there's this older gentleman there. This older gentleman says something to this effect. He says, our interest with you, we brought you here because you are well respected on the surface world. And Admiral Byrd scoffs under his breath and says something like this, surface world? And the master says, yes, surface world. You are in the inter-earth, in the city of Ariana. And we brought you here because you are well respected on the surface world. And our interest in your race started when you used atomic bombs over Hiroshima, Japan, and Nagasaki. And we want you to deliver a message to your government that says, we disapprove of your use of atomic bombs. Now, and they went on to talk about all kinds of weird stuff. He leaves, he gets on his airplane, goes home, has a meeting at the Pentagon, president's notified. He tells them everything I told you and much more. And they said, you're to remember that you're a military man. And you're not to mention this to anybody. You're to obey orders, basically. Now, Admiral Byrd never told this to anybody. He wrote it down in what is called now the Secret Diary of Admiral Byrd. And so maybe it's fake, right? Could just be fake. Could be a hoax. But let me ask you this. Have you been to the North Pole? Do you know anybody that's ever been to the North Pole? Do you believe everything that you read? Do you believe everything that you hear? How do we know this story's not true? It could have been anything. That guy disapproved of atomic bomb use on the surface. Isn't that interesting? So I'm not telling you that the story's a fact, because I don't know that it is. But I'm challenging you to open up your mind to think that maybe the world is different than we think it is. If you didn't have a voice, would you open your eyes? If you didn't have a choice, and what would you do? If your life was a dream, nothing is real. What it seems, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. What would become of if it wasn't the sky? Black hole, with emptiness and lies. What would you run from if there's nothing to fear? Would you turn around and stay? Would you disappear? What would you think if the ocean was gone? Everything's okay, everything's alright. Oh, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. Nothing could be felt. Would you want to be alive? And do with what you can tell. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Say, if you didn't have a voice, would you open your eyes? If you didn't have a choice, and what would you do? If your life was a dream, nothing is real.